truly believe in the magic.
Hey, Magic fans, what's good? Welcome to Penny for Your Thoughts, the podcast of the Orlando Magic UK. It's episode 81. And as you can tell from all the big smiles, this is our pod reaction to the news that on the draft lottery, we pulled number one pick on Tuesday night. So let's get to it. I'm joined as always by Mikey. Mikey, how you doing, pal?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Smiles all round, obviously. Conall, you good?
100%.
Oh, I'm absolutely made up. I've been dying to record this since the envelope was opened, so I'm ready. I'm definitely ready.
And Gary, we saw the gun show as they read out that we got the number one pick. How are you doing, pal?
Something big happened this week.
We saw the gun show. I've seen the live stream back.
Got the vest on. It's too warm. It's over 10 degrees. You got to put a vest on now.
Yes, right. So let's get to this. Let's say Tuesday night we pulled in the NBA draft lottery. The basketball gods favoured us, and we got the number one pick. So June 23rd, Barclays Center, Brooklyn. It will be all eyes on who we actually take. Magic also hold picks 32 and 35, which comes via the Pacers in the second round. Marked the fourth time in Magic history that we hold the number one pick. Previously, we drafted at one in 92, Shaquille O'Neal. Following year, 93, the draft night trade that saw Penny Hardaway and three future picks land with the Magic. And then in 2004, we drafted Dwight Howard. So, boys, let's do it. Conall, what's your reaction to this number one pick? Where are you with it, mate? Well, if looking at your reaction was, as Gary said, the best.
Well, it's because it was excited and then it was reserved because, like we said, it turns out I was a few seconds behind everybody else and I didn't want to be the one to kind of spoil it. So I was like, yes. And then I thought, oh, I'll let them enjoy their moment first before I get into it. But like you've said, there are some big names to live up to with former Magic number one picks. And if they're anything to go by, you know, if there's any sort of correlation between the amount of talent that we seem to pull from number one picks, then our number one pick luck will give us a good player no matter who it is. And it is a bit of a different draft this time because, like you say, when we selected Shaq and Dwight especially, it was kind of a foregone conclusion, it seemed, as to who was going to be taken. But it seems like there's three guys in the conversation, and I'm sure everybody watching already knows this. There's Paolo, there's Jabari, and there's Chet. And each of them have their upsides. The different players, it's hard to compare them. And for the Magic's needs, it's an interesting one because, you know, it's positions where we have young players in every position, but, you know, we have young potential stars in those positions anyway. So I know we'll get later on to the podcast about who we think we should take and why when we go to the kind of Q&A section. But we can't, with the number one pick, you can't lose. It's a rarity that with the number one pick, you end up drafting a total bust. So I think with the position that we're in, we're very, very fortunate. And with a young squad already, the future only gets brighter.
Absolutely. And Gary, as I said earlier, just before, we saw your reaction. There you were in the vest and giving it a good flex as we got that pick.
Well, you can join me tonight, Paul. You've got the vest on as well.
It's like you said, pal, it's too warm.
I think I went into that where it was, if we got a top three, I was happy. That's all I wanted. Yeah. It was a top three pick. I'd crack at one of those three. And I looked at that and thought, well, we can't go any lower than 6. And when we got into that zone where it was in the top 3, I was just like, right, whatever happens now is a bonus. If we'd hit the third pick, I would have been happy. If we hit the second pick, I'd have been slightly happier. With the first pick, I was like, well, puts us. It doesn't just give us the choice of the player; it gives us. I'm not saying we should do this, but the choice of if we wanted to deal, like if we wanted to swap, I might come onto that, but it gives us options, which I think is important.
And Mikey, you on that stream were clearly a long way behind everybody else because everybody else is giving it this, and you're still a thinker pose as you're looking down at your phone, waiting for that news to come through. When did you actually find out? Sort of 7 o'clock in the morning?
No, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock the next morning.
It's the benefits of living out in the sticks, pal.
Mate, do you know what's odd though? Like, I think I said to you guys in our group, like my Wi-Fi speed around there is like 200, which is really fast. But the problem is, it's got to travel from the next town, which is about 4 miles away. So that's part of the reason why it's so slow. But no, I did contemplate life for about 20, 30 seconds longer than Conall, who it was a few steps in front of me. But it was. It's just an exciting time. We've finally this horrendous season of sitting there watching us win just 22 games and having what we've gone through at the end of last season. It's all been worth it. I know none of us like tanking. We're all still against it, but fortunately this time the lottery odds and lottery balls have bounced our way. And we've just got an exciting summer to look forward to now, because as Gary and you guys have already said, landing number one pick, not only do you get the chance to get the guy, you also get the chance to control the draft and listen to deals that other teams might come up with. I mean, there's a lot of talk, we'll get into this in a minute, but there's a lot of talk that the Thunder are really keen on Chet Holmgren. Well, if he's not the guy that we supposedly want, then you could possibly make that move, drop back to 2 and pick up some extra assets. I mean, like I said, there's lots of different things the Magic can do. But for me, it is massive. Forget all the history and all that sort of stuff. It was a night, and we can enjoy it for the next month, but it was certainly a night that the last decade of being irrelevant and being stuck in mediocrity and full of frustration of all the bad pass moves that we've made and everything else. It's certainly a chance for us to turn the corner and actually put something together and build a decent core moving forwards.
I know I'm banned from watching the draft lottery from now on, as I wasn't up watching it. I woke up to that news, and just what an amazingly exciting piece of news to wake up to as a Magic fan. It's you look at like we've said, the previous occasions that we've drafted somebody at number one, they've been defining moments for that generation of team. They've led to a finals appearance in each occasion. Does it feel like it could be the defining moment for this generation of team? I don't know. We'll get to that. It's a chance to build on what we already have and what we can attract in during the summer as well. As I said before we went on air, I was already amazingly excited for our trip in October. Dear God, did my excitement levels take a step up to the next level when I read that? Amazing. So looking forward to it. So, quick reminder to everybody, we are hosting a draft watch party on Thursday, the 23rd of June. It's going to be for Magic fans in the UK and across the globe. So if you'd like to join us to watch the draft unfold, please do. We're hoping that we can get several special guests on to join us again, as we did last year. So if you want to join in, sign up. Go to orlandoMagicUK.com/events to sign up. Mikey will be the guy to send you the links in the days leading up to the event, and we'll also probably live stream it on YouTube if you don't want to join in but want to actually watch something at the time. So keep a view on this space. Let's get to the questions that we've asked people, what they want to hear, what they want to talk to us about on the news that we've got the number one pick. So from Tom Crick, in his words, it's a basic one, but Chet, Paolo or Jabari? And I'm also going to throw in here the question that we got in from Gary Clark. His question was, who do you think the front office will go with, and would you personally pick differently? So Gary, let's come to you first, mate.
Cheers,
Chet,
mate.
Paolo or Jabari?
Front office will, I think right now, if you said to them, make the pick now, I think the front office would take Chet. And I say that because of, I think they've been trying to get this unicorn type player since they arrived. They tried it with their GI. Obviously, injuries haven't helped there at all. And then I think that was behind the Mo Bamba pick. They want someone who can run the floor, block shots, defend, and stretch the floor. So I think going into it, Chet Holmgren would be the front office pick. For my pick, this changes throughout the day. I'll be honest, I don't know, would be the honest answer. If I was looking at pure upside, I think Chet's the Dwight Howard pick. Because I think he's the one where if we pick Chet, we've seen something in the workouts and it's an upside thing. So if I was going to totally swing for the fences, and that's the mood I'm in right now because I'm on here with you guys, I'll go with Chet. You ask me again at 9 o'clock, it'll be probably Paolo or Jabari. So right now it's Chet, but I think the front office would
not going down. You're not going after those top three. Looking at those top three, you don't see anybody coming up.
If Shaden Sharp had played during the year, he actually looks like the player who would benefit us massively. He's a guard, he can shoot. He's got, me and Mikey had this conversation already. He's got the Brandon Roy, like new age Brandon Roy, hopefully without the injuries comparison. So if he played, I think he would have possibly been the consensus. But what happens when you sit out a year? Look at James Wiseman.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay, Conall, let's come to you. Same question, dude.
Well, if you look at what the front office want, based on what we've seen from them in the past, they probably want a 7'6" wingspan, which belongs to Chet Holmgren at the minute. And I don't want to just echo everything Gary said, but I do agree a lot that between the day I'm Jabari 1 hour and then I'm Chet the next hour, and then I'll read something else and I'll change my mind, and I'll watch a different video and I'll change my mind. But like you say, if we've been looking for that unicorn type player and we've been looking for it in Mo and J.I., I mean, we could talk for an hour about J.I. and won't he come back? What impact will he have? But I think one thing you look with Chet, for a 7-footer, he can handle the ball like a guard, and that's not just a saying. When you actually watch the footage of him, the way that he kind of moves up and down the floor for a guy of his size is unbelievable. And the issue that people have with him is he only weighs 195 pounds. For a 7-foot center, is he built for the NBA right now? When you look at a guy like Paolo, who's arguably 6'10", was he 250 pounds, something like that? I think.
Yeah.
He's got that NBA ready-made build where he might be able to come in and impact straight away. But when I've looked at everyone in the media who's now pretending that they're an Orlando Magic expert and they know what we need, I've not seen anybody. I've not seen anybody have Paolo at the top, which is interesting because when you read the scouting reports, you say he is probably most likely out of the three of them to slot straight into an NBA team. But I can't say I watched a lot of college basketball last season. Also, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on these players, but from what you read about them and the potential upside of each three, I'm going to say Chet. Ask me at the end of the podcast, you might get a different answer.
Mikey, go for it. Same questions.
I think they're all options 1A, 1B, and 1C. I think it's really hard to separate the three of them because to me, it's going down to really styles of play, really, and what sort of body you kind of want players to sort of develop into, really, because and Conall just said he hasn't seen anyone have Paolo. I've seen a few people, and Philip Rossman-Reich, who we all know from Orlando Magic Daily, he said straight after the draft lottery the other night, Paolo would be his pick, and every time he's done a mock draft and he gets a chance to pick number one, he said he would go with Paolo, and I've heard several other people say the same thing. I feel like Paolo and Jabari will make a bigger impact straight away. I think Chet is the long-term guy that you're going to develop. He's not necessarily going to come in, and I might be wrong. Like he might have the sort of impact we saw Evan Mobley have last year. I think he's definitely got that potential too. But in terms of who I want, I mean, I've been going on about Jabari Smith for the last couple of weeks. He's the guy that I'm looking for. That he's got that. You can see the Jason Tatum kind of style and his ability to spread the floor and score from all three levels. He's got a decent wingspan. He's 6'10". He's the same height as Banchero. He's arguably a better defender than Banchero, which is probably one of the things that a lot of people are sort of criticising Banchero for a little bit. Chet, to me, has probably got the highest amount of upside. But like we've said this before, he's probably the highest risk and highest reward guy out of the three. That the risk is that body, and can he put on muscle? Can he put on that strength? And can he handle playing against grown men? And we've seen this with Magic players in the past. Like, everyone forgets Dwight Howard was just a skinny little teenager when we drafted him in 2004. And then he turned into having massive shoulders and arms and being the 3-time defensive player of the year. And we've seen it with Giannis, and we've seen Kevin Durant. Like, there's lots of players of that build. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the front office would go with Chet if they had the choice, but I would go with Jabari Smith if it was me.
For me, I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched anything yet. I've not had the opportunity. I still haven't watched a playoff game from before when we were recording last time around. I just haven't had the opportunity. That's going to be over this weekend. So at this moment in time, I've not got an opinion on any of the three guys. Because as I've said before, I don't bother looking at anything until the draft lottery has come out. I don't see the point in me looking at picks 1 through 3 if we're not going to be going until 5 or 6. So I will now start having a look at the prospects. So at this moment in time, I don't have an opinion. Sorry to sit on the fence and sound uninterested. I've just not had the opportunity. What I was very surprised at is to see how closely grouped all their figures are. Their stats are so very, very closely grouped. There's less than 3 points difference per game. There's the rebounding is probably, well, it is very much in favour of Chet, as is the blocks. 4.9 blocks per game he was averaging, which is a hell of a figure. But then when you come to assists, there's 1 assist a game between them. It's 0.3 of a game per game for steals. The figures are so close. It seems that there's not really a losing pick amongst them, it would appear.
The thing I'd be interested to see is, and I put this out on Twitter yesterday, and we'll hopefully get somebody like Dan Savage or somebody to come on and talk with us about some of these prospects. But I put it out on Twitter yesterday. It'd be interesting to see where people rank these three players in and amongst last year's draft. Where would they fit if they were in last year's draft? And a few people sort of had them in and around the Mobley pick, the Scotty Barnes pick. So I think there's still that caliber of player still there. It was just interesting. Again, we don't get a huge amount of we don't get to watch these players very often. So it's just interesting to see how people sort of rank them compared to last year.
Okay, let's jump on to the next two. Two very similar questions. One from Charles on Instagram and one came in from Anthony Unwin via Twitter. We'll take Anthony's first. And he asked, do you think the front office will mastermind a trade back to acquire more assets, or do they concentrate on picking their guy without any drama? So, Mikey.
I don't think they'll trade back. They'll certainly entertain it and ask for the world for that first overall pick. But to me, you finally win the lottery. You finally get the chance to change course and change direction and have a massive impact on what the next 5 years look like. To me, you go and get that guy regardless. Whether you think OKC might want Chet and maybe Chet's not our guy, I don't know. But to me, if you've got the number 1 pick, entertain it unless somebody comes in with a crazy offer. And I don't know, a bit like 1993 where we got 3 first-round picks and Penny Hardaway for Chris Webber. Unless it's something substantial like that, then I don't think we'll move. And I don't think we should. I think if that guy's there, if that guy's there that they think that that's the guy we need to start building around, then you're just taking for me.
Gary, do you think they'll stick with the keeping the number 1 pick?
I think, for me, I think it's a game of smoke and mirrors, really. And we know that how Orlando operate, and to be honest, OKC operate very much on the same way. Hypothetically, if we fell in love with Smith or Banchero and OKC were really wanting Chet, OKC's also got the 12th pick and they own about 5,000 picks between now and 2030. If there's potential to pull like some type of, we're going to do the picks, swap the picks, the 1 and the 2, we pick for them, they pick for us, and then they put number 12 and say another one on the table or a couple of pick swaps down the line, I think Orlando would consider it, but I think it would be a case of OKC would have to reveal their hand to us. We don't have to reveal ours to them. That's the beauty of the number 1 pick. So we know that nothing's coming out of that front office. We'll see who comes in because it's going to carry media scrutiny, but nobody will know outside of the front office, Jamal Mosley, and if they bring a player in, I don't even think the players will know who the pick's going to be, and it'll be tight-lipped and they'll play a poker game. And I think OKC is the only team who's drafting who could offer us something where we go, we'll pick for you, you pick for us, because it's directly after, and they're wanting very similar things to what we are. And we'll see. I think if it's going to happen, I think that'll be it.
Yeah. Conall, I'm going to throw Charles' question to you. And that was, if OKC are, as reported, set on Chet, how would you feel picking for him and then trading for, say, Jabari and the 12th pick, similar to what they did in 93?
I think that, like both the guys have said, it's a really nice position to be in where if they want Chet that much and if this situation does arise, that's them giving us an offer. We don't have to say anything. We can just happily sit here for a month and then pick our guy. So if they want Chet, they're going to have to act a little bit desperate for him, and they're going to have to say, oh, can we give you this? Can we give you this? The ball's in our court. And what I'll say is I trust our front office to make the right decision. If they trade the pick, I'm not going to have a cry about it and throw my toys out the pram. I think they know what they're doing. They're not going to rush into any stupid decision. Like you say, we've got the first pick, which means we also have a month to deal with this. There's no uncertainty about, I wonder who will have less to choose from. We know the situation that we'll find ourselves in, and it's in our hands. And I trust the front office to do whatever they think's right. If OKC do want Chet, like the situation, the question, and we fall in love with Jabari, then it only makes sense for us to do that trade, because then we'd either pick Jabari and get no assets with it, or we could swap around, pick Jabari, and like you say, collect one of the 5 million picks that OKC have stockpiled up over the coming years. So whatever the case, I'm going to be happy, and that's the benefit of the position that we're in with the number 1 pick, and with a front office that we've kind of grown with over the past few years with the young team, and I feel like we all have trust in. That whatever they do, we know that they're doing it for a reason, because they have a future for the team. And they kind of, over the next 5 years, let's say, they obviously have a vision for where we're going to go. So whatever happens, I'm happy. If they want to do that trade with OKC, fine by me. If they don't, also fine by me. I have faith.
Before I ask the next question, and the one that I'm going to ask next really does follow on very closely to what we've just been talking about, I just want to say to the guys sent questions in, thanks ever so much, because they are really, really good questions. It's been really interesting. This is what we've said it many, many times. It's something that we absolutely love, the interaction that we get with you all, because you come up with things sometimes that we don't necessarily think of, and it's just a big part of what we do and what we enjoy doing. So thank you very much. So to follow on, this one came in from Joshua Richard 19 on Instagram, and the question is, who are the types of player you would trade the pick for? So it really does follow on very closely from Charles and Anthony's question. So Gary, let's come to you first. What sort of players would you trade the pick for?
A trade that I would find intriguing we'll go back to OKC again. And if we had OKC over like a Chet Holmgren sized barrel and shaped barrel as well, because we're all in about
a big barrel.
It's a big barrel, but it's a slim barrel. I would be really interested if we could do something where it was a pick swap and something happened like where we maybe sent one or two of our vets and we said we get Shea Gilgeous-Alexander back and the number 2, that would be interesting to me. The other players that have been thrown around who may be unsettled, I either don't think would happen or I don't really want. So I don't really want Rudy Gobert, and I don't think a number 1's enough for Zion.
So OKC with the pick and SGA is where you're...
That would be very hard to turn back.
Oh, yeah.
But a borderline all-star, and then God knows what else you see in whoever number 2 is.
Mikey, same question. Where are you at with the type of player?
I kind of agree with Gary. I think any scenario like that, you've got to look at, like, say Houston want to move up from 3. I mean, I can't see Houston at all entertaining Jalen Green trades for a number 1 pick either. But like that's what you've got to ask for, though, isn't it? Like if you're going to entertain those trades, that's what you've got to ask for. I don't think it's what you're going to get. I don't think, like we discussed players like Donovan Mitchell and people like that in the past few months, but I don't think any of those moves are right for where we are at this point in time. So, I think future picks or that borderline all-star that's still young enough that fits in with the rest of this roster. I think anything outside of that's probably not really what we should be looking for.
Is there, Conall, I'm going to change the tack ever so slightly for you. Is there anything to say? Because I was really hoping G would be on, but unfortunately Garant can't join us because he's away for the weekend at his brother's wedding, I think he said. Yeah. So enjoy yourself, G. We're missing you, mate. But is there any kind of scenario where somebody like the Lakers could come knocking for the number 1
with Taylor Horton Tucker in a first round pick?
Is there anywhere that you would look at doing a deal? Is there anything that they could attract you with?
Well, it's finding a player that fits our timeline for a number 1 pick, and the kind of superstar players in the league are, in most cases, on teams who are trying to build to win now. So will they want to trade that player for a first round pick? Do we want, an aging star player? Does that fit the timeline and the kind of the culture of what we have? No. So it really narrows down what we take. When you talk about the Lakers, I can't think of any way that we could work with them or that I'd want to work with them. The SGA one makes sense. It just depends on the desperation of OKC, how badly they want Chet. But it's weird because they're hard to compare as assets. The first overall pick and a player that you're gonna, automatically an NBA experienced player that you're gonna slot in a squad. Like Mikey said, maybe that kind of borderline all-star, maybe like 3rd, 4th year player who's in the timeline of our team, who you kind of know what you're gonna get. Because like you say, taking Chet, for example, as much as he has the biggest upside, he is a massive risk. At the same time, he's never going to be a bad player, but will he be able to solidify himself in the NBA as quickly as maybe some of the others? I don't know. But to answer your question, the Lakers, I don't want to touch them. If you offered me the SGA trade, however, plus a couple of picks or a pick, or depending on the value of it, then I'd probably say yes, to be honest.
I think anything SGA is definitely worth a look, because he does fit our timeline, and the guy has an ability to put a team on his shoulders. He's definitely got an ability. Is there anybody else that you can, any of the three of you can think of that would perhaps come knocking to move up? Say a Detroit, Indiana, Portland, who all dropped down in the lottery. Is there anything that you think that they could perhaps come knocking?
Russell Westbrook. If you want to. No, I don't see it, because I just don't think, when you look at it, like the talk is the Jazz are going to blow it up this year, and I'm not sure that Donovan Mitchell's value is held with the exits they've had. I'm not sure his value is as high as it was like 6 months ago even. And Rudy Gobert, you have to play a certain system. to maximise Gobert, and then there's a kind of, well, when you get to the elite level, like the real superstar where we're at now in the Final Four type, Gobert can be exposed quite easily. And then when you look at it from there and say, oh, what are we going to give up? It's like what's already been said. It's they don't fit our timeline. Like Conall's saying, they don't fit. There's nothing there. The player who's possibly available who fits our timeline, Zion, but I just don't see that happening.
But with his injuries, would you trade for him though?
Not really.
Because
no.
I wouldn't.
On value, if he's fit, yes. But then it's the injury thing again, and I don't really want another player made of glass sat on the end of the Magic bench modeling the latest next catalogue edition or whatever. That's what we tend to see.
The thing is, there's only a few teams that like, and it's the teams in and around us. Like Zion's probably the only real X factor, and teams that are a little bit further outside of that scenario. Because if you look at Houston with Jalen Green, he'd be the one that you'd be asking for. If you look at the Detroit Pistons, it'd be Cade Cunningham. If you're looking at OKC, you'd be asking for SGA. Like outside of those players, there's not really anybody else that fits what we're really looking for. And for those teams' points of view, they've already got them. Like, why would they need to go and risk losing them to then draft to get the number one pick just to solidify getting the guy that they want when they've already got a building block in place, which is what we're really wanting out of this draft, isn't it? Because that's the one thing that we're lacking out of compared to the three of them. Despite that, how stacked our roster is full of young players, and we really like a lot of them, we're still missing that guy. And I think those three teams already have that. And I'm not sure that they would give it up. Obviously, we would probably say, yeah, but I'm not sure they would even entertain it themselves. So
from my view, I think what you guys already touched on is absolutely correct. It's either we take the number one pick, we pick our guy with absolutely no pressure on us, because as I say, I don't think there's a loss on picking any one of those three. You can make it's quite clear from how you guys are saying that 1 hour it's this guy, 1 hour it's that guy, next hour it's the third person.
Yeah.
That there's no bad option amongst the three of them, and they are very close, as we've already said, very closely tied on the stats. So it's just taking which is the favourite on what the team see working out. So I ultimately think that will be where we go. I think we'll hold on to the pick. But if OKC come knocking, I think you've got to give it some serious consideration, because you are only dropping down that one position. I think the downside to it could be something that each of those three guys is going to want to come to Orlando, because they've got the opportunity to step straight into a team where they are the star player. They've got potential to get a lot of media exposure. They've got potential to get a lot of good sponsorship deals and all those sorts of things. They have the potential. They have the option, because we don't have that star guy, of being the team's franchise player. So I think that there will be a lot of interest from each of the top three players in coming to our team. And I think that it's an amazing position that we are in. Moving on, a couple of closely related questions about how us getting the number one pick changes our roster's future. So from on Instagram via Michael J. Fox, a good friend of ours, we can't play all these young guys. Will we trade some away for a vet? So, Mikey, let's come to you first.
I don't necessarily think it'll be, say, a like-for-like trade for any of them in particular. I mean, I'm looking at players like RJ Hampton, who I think we all like, but I think he's the sort of player, him and maybe Tuma, the sort of guy that you might package in a deal for somebody like in a Terrence Ross trade for somebody else in return. Personally, I think we just got to keep the top of this roster stacked with young players. We only really need 2, 3, 4, probably the very most veterans on this team, in my opinion, this season, because it's a season where you want to figure out what players are we moving forwards with. I think next summer's the summer that we start to thin out the youth a little bit more and start to build something a little bit more concrete. At the moment, I don't think that's the move. I think we're just filling in gaps with veterans at the moment. I don't think that's not the priority this summer. It's about improving the talent on this roster, and that's the most important thing. So no, I don't think we'll necessarily trade for one. I think if anything, it's just going to be someone we had in free agency, like bringing Robin Lopez back or somebody like that.
Okay. Conall, what about yourself? Are you seeing us trading some of the youth for more veteran presence?
Well, like you say, there's definitely a need for veteran presence with us drafting another young guy into a roster where the average age is about 23.9 or something, I think, anyway. And you look at Terence Ross is probably on his way out. Robin Lopez, we haven't extended his deal yet, which leaves us with Gary Harris. And is that it? I can't, off the top of my head, think of anyone else that's really, that's really kind of a veteran that sticks out. So when you're looking at moving guys, I think there's a core that they're definitely going to want to keep. There's no way we trade, obviously, Jalen Suggs, Markel Fultz. I don't think we trade Cole Anthony. We're also going to keep Franz. We're going to keep Wendell. But then you start looking at Mo Bamba, Chuma Okeke, RJ Hampton, and thinking, are they really part of the long-term future of the team? They're guys that we kind of gave a chance to, like Mo Bamba, the Mo Bamba kind of project that he was when we drafted him a few years ago. It's not really worked out how we might have hoped it would. And then obviously we saw in the past season, Wendell's certainly taken over his role as a starter in the team. So I think he still carries value though, because he is young, and there is obviously the possibility that he could, potentially kind of improve over the next couple of years. But we're not talking about adding a star to the team here. We're talking about adding a veteran who's going to be someone to guide the young players. So, I mean, those are the three that come to mind when we talk about people that we might move on. Who we might take, I have no idea. And I think it might be more likely, like Mikey said, that we do bring somebody in free agency. Because, I mean, just to kind of echo it again, I think that next summer will be the summer of, right, we've had this really young team for a couple of years now. We've seen who's got it and who's not got it and who could potentially be there for something bigger in the future. And then we'll kind of try and thin out a bit more. I feel like these guys might get a little bit more of a chance, but if any of them were to go, it would be RJ, Chuma, Mo.
So you both kind of see it still as a development season again next season?
I think it probably will be. We have to be realistic about it. Like, none of us are a fan of tanking, and it'll break my heart if we lose, 60 games again next season. But we're in this for the long run. I mean, we're Magic fans. We have to be in this for the long run. We've been in this for the long run for a while now. And I think we're prepared for it. And we know that it's for the good of the organisation. Rather than try and rush into like getting rid of that first pick for like a Damian Lillard or something like that, we know that we've got a few more years, but also there's no need to lose hope, because you look at, like, I've got the roster written down here next to me. There's promise there. We bring in a number 1 overall pick. Our time will come, so there's no need to kind of rush into getting rid of these young guys, I don't think. 1 more year and then we'll see where we are.
Yeah. So, Gary, I'm going to say the 2 questions that we've got here are very, very close together. So I'm going to lead with Anthony Unwin's question for you. Does having the number 1 pick change what the Magic do in respect of Mo Bamba, Gary Harris, Terence Ross, and to some extent, Robin Lopez?
I think, like, where I was going to go anywhere is I think Mo Bamba might have some money thrown at him from elsewhere. And I think if we take Chet, there is only so many minutes to go around. And that's not me. I'm not a Mo Bamba hater. I want the guy to do well. But I just think that he is a player where I think we could lose him, because it might come down to we aren't going to pay the money that's thrown at Mo when we've got another project on the books if we take Chet. So I think there's question marks there. I don't think Gary Harris will come back, which I know G, for example, really likes him and will give him a 1-year deal. Totally see the logic in that, but I don't think he'll be back. T. Ross has been an interesting one because a couple of weeks ago, if you'd said it, it looked as though he wanted to go. But from his own podcast, it looks as though he's actually excited for the season. So I possibly could see us riding him to at least trade deadline. And I think he'll be around till then. If it was me, I would bring Robin Lopez back because I think he's perfect for this group of players to have as a vet in the locker room. I think it's clear that he looks after them, he enjoys being here. And I think if we're going to draft a big, which it looks like, you want to have somebody that size to throw at them. You know, like when Dwight Howard came in, he was having to practice against Kelvin Cato and Tony Batty. You know, like two huge veteran centres. So I would want Robin Lopez, and you've got Wendell there, and he's, you know, really come on a lot. So to have those two guys automatically on your roster to say you're going to work with these two, possibly Jonathan Isaac. I think the question marks for me are what would happen with Mo, with a big coming in, because he looks to me as though he'll get an offer sheet from somewhere.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think there's question marks there, and I just don't think Gary Harris will come back. I could see Gary Harris going back to Denver.
I think I've mentioned that the other day. I think that's a possibility that he could find his way back to a team he clearly loved playing for, and a location he has a lot of affection for. And if he does, you know what, fair play to the guy, and he probably fits with them again at this moment in time. Good luck to the guy if that's where he ends up.
What do you think, Paul?
I like the idea of bringing Rolo back, because particularly if you draft Chet, because I think Rolo is one of those guys he's a veteran with a young attitude to life. Yeah. So he's a lot of fun. He's a lot of enjoyment about things, but he also great player to learn from. And he is clearly all about the team. He's clearly all about his teammates. I know he's absolutely loved by Magic staff who have met him and been involved with him. He is one of those people that you just don't hear a bad word about him. He's really highly praised. So I think that Rolo comes back. I thought the press release by the Magic that Dan Savage wrote in respect of the article about us getting the number one overall pick was quite interesting, because the words he wrote were, unlike many players who go to organisations awarded the number one overall pick, this Magic team is not devoid of talent. The group currently features a number of lottery selections at its core, including Markel Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr. and Jonathan Isaac, to go along with other promising young pieces such as Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton and Chuma Okeke. One name clearly missed out in that lot. No mention of Mo Bamba. So it can't. Okay, I don't want to read too much into that. It's just that he's in restricted free agency. So perhaps we've not included him because of that. But that does kind of make you think, does he have a future with the team? I don't know. I don't know. I thought that was really interesting, though.
I think with us admitting it's going to be another developmental year, what Gary said, right? Is there any point, there will be another team who wants to pay him money, and that money will probably be more than what we want to pay him, given we've kind of, succumbed to the fact that the project is over, and the two players that we'll probably see at the 4 and 5 next year are Wendell and whoever we draft, whether that be Chet. So there's not really, with it being a developmental year and we're probably going to focus on giving minutes to the young guys again, is there any point giving them to Mo, and never mind minutes, giving money to Mo, when we're not trying to sign players to win anything. We're trying to sign players that we can develop the team, which is why we're talking about veterans like Robin Lopez, because of what he can bring in terms of guidance to them. So it's unlikely that we're going to want to match what somebody.
I think Mo's gone. I do think Mo's gone. I wish him well. I've not been his greatest fan, but I think he showed a huge development last season. Good luck to the guy wherever he goes. If he goes, good luck to him. If he stays with us, then don't think he's getting as big a money as potentially he could.
I think it might be somebody like maybe Indiana. If they're going to finally trade Miles Turner this summer, that opens up a space that Bamba could play minutes there with, and you got Halliburton, who's still young, who's still developing. Not necessarily saying that's what Indiana are going to do. I just think that's possibly a team. I don't think he's coming back. I just think if we hadn't have got a top 3 pick in this year's draft, I think there was a very good possibility he might have been back next year.
I agree.
The fact that you got 3 bigs that you got the chance to pick number 1, I think that already kind of is halfway to making that decision for us already. Just the fact that we've got that top pick.
And it's slightly off topic, but it comes from what Dan Savage wrote on us getting this pick. Do you see that as being our starting 5 potentially next season? Markel, Jalen, Franz, Wendell, and J.I.? Or does J.I. drop out, assuming he's fit for the start of the season, and whoever we've drafted get the start?
Well, just going back really quickly. So,
carry on, Bob.
It's going to be really interesting for me is what money DeAndre Ayton gets paid.
Yeah,
DeAndre Ayton gets a max deal. More Bamba's value might go up a bit because right now Bamba is being compared to Wendell in terms of the deal Wendell got. So there's no way you can justify giving more money to more than Wendell. But if somebody maxes DeAndre Ayton, all of a sudden there's a little bit of leverage there for Bamba's agent to go around to another team and say, well, he's a young guy. He did show this with his first set of minutes. Pay him at least this. So I think he's got more leverage if he waits to see. It's a risk, but to see what Ayton gets. If the Suns or somebody maxes Ayton, all of a sudden leverage falls to Bamba, which might mean we don't bring him back because he's just completely not affordable at all then to us.
I can't think who I listened to today, but they were talking about Robert Williams that plays for Boston. He got a similar contract, I think, last summer to Wendell. And they were basically saying, I don't know if it was Woj's podcast, it was somebody like that. And they were saying that that's almost setting the tone for the way teams are starting to value centres at the moment. Mm-hmm. I don't think Ayton's going to get a max deal, but I completely get what Gary's saying, though, that that's going to make a big difference on what other players think they're going to get. So
okay.
Sorry,
starting 5. No, don't apologise. Mate, this is what conversation should be, and this is what this pod is. It's us doing what we normally do, talking basketball, and things flow, and that's all good. So I'm just interested, does whoever we draft get the start over if JI's fit, does he get the start? What do you see the start as? Conall, let's ask you first, mate.
I mean, whether or not, in our opinion, who should start, it's whether or not JI will start, because this injury saga has been going on for longer than there's, could have possibly been foreseen.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that he's played basketball, so it would be ridiculous if he wasn't back for the start of the season, I think. And we're all expecting him to be back. It's just how well is he performing in practice now when he's not had NBA minutes in over a year. You look at the guy that got injured, and we're talking about a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and a guy who looked like he was coming towards becoming a real powerhouse for us. But it depends what the coach sees, to be honest, because like you say, it's interesting that the draft has fallen in a way that it will be somebody who's competing directly for his position. Mm. And given the issues that he's caused the team in the past year with his injuries, will he be trusted to play the minutes? Will the minutes kind of be shared between them? I'm not sure. Personally, I'm kind of past it with him at the minute. He might come back and really impress us, and then I'll fall back in love with him like I was a couple of years ago. But he's really kind of pushed me to the edge of my patience. And I'd rather we started one of these young guys and said, look, we've used our number 1 pick here. We're not going to draft a guy at 1 and sit him on the bench. You've not played for over a year. Earn your spot back in the team. And I think that's how I'd go into the season. But We'll have to see what the coach does.
I'm 100% with you, Conall. I'm 100% with you. I would go Fultz, Suggs, Wagner, Wendell, and whoever. Are you, Gary? Are you in the same sort of position? Same thoughts?
Depends who we draft. I think if we draft Chet Holmgren, I don't know whether he will start or not. I think if we draft one of the other two, I think they will start because we've made the decision then to go with the immediate contribution. There's question marks on GI because if he is not ready to go by the training camp or by October, there's a real problem there, bigger than the problem I worry that's already there. And I want him to get fit because I think he's an awesome player potentially. But I think Chet will be where it's a bit of a slow burn, where we might see him and then he'll gradually, as the season goes on, see more of him. But there's a lot of things to take into account if we draft Chet, and I don't think it's even just about the physique with Chet Holmgren. My biggest worry is not his physique as it goes, because I think I look at him and I'm thinking, well, Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be the guy who takes Joel Embiid, takes Jokic, etc., because he's done it already very, very well. And I also think, well, look at Kevin Garnett. Physique-wise, that's the physique I see. I remember KG getting drafted and he was like a toothpick when he came. My worry with Chet Holmgren is the level of competition that Gonzaga faces compared to what you would have seen Smith and Banchero get. So I think it's a double alert if you bring in Chet in, where it's a case of, first of all, gradually dipping him in, and then secondly, gradually bringing him up to maybe a pace. But I'm pretty sure when he works out for the Magic and any of the other bigs work out, I think they're going to walk in there and they're going to find Wendell Carter Jr. and perhaps Robin Lopez. More Wagner waiting. And just imagine if you were going into a training camp, by the way, and more Wagner's waiting for you to work out against.
I was just going to say that, mate.
You're going to leave him earache as well. You know, so I think there's a lot to be said about what happens when they do their training camp, when they come and do their workouts with us. I think Chet will be on the bench if we draft him first.
Mikey, where are you with the 5?
I disagree slightly. I think whoever you draft, I think you've got to start them. I think you've got to give them as many minutes as possible. Again, you want them you want to put them in a position. I need some light as well, Paul. I'm sinking.
Yeah, I'm going into the shadows here.
But yeah, you obviously want to put them in a position where they can succeed. And for me, if it's Holmgren, he's going to succeed playing next to Wendell, because Gary's already alluded to Wendell's going to guard the bigger forwards and the bigger centres. So Holmgren's already got that advantage that he's going to have him as his running partner. And he's going to have Markel, who's going to be able to find him and create him space and everything else. To me, I think you have to start whoever's drafting number 1. I think there might be a bit of an uproar if they didn't. I think how they perform in Summer League, especially Chet, might make the front office think twice. But just alluding back to an earlier question we discussed earlier, I had a thought about, and we were talking about the debate about whether JI might come in and start. I wonder, here's another twist to maybe draft night, is we talked about maybe the Magic trading the number 1 pick maybe to 2 and trying to get another draft pick or 2. I wonder whether there's an opportunity for the Magic to get off the JI contract and say to a team, if you want the number 1 pick, you've got to take JI, and we make something work that way. Because I think, 1, that opens up the opportunity for whoever we draft, and 2, it gives JI a fresh start. And we kind of clear that playing time a little bit, because I don't think JI can come in and start. I think we're going to see something similar. I think they might even be even more caution, have more caution bringing JI back than we saw with Markel towards the end of the season. I think we might even see him playing 10 minutes a game, not even 15 or 20. I think they'll be really, really careful with him, bring him in slowly. Because to me, I think draft night, if they want to get off that money, draft night's the night to do it. I think otherwise, if he goes into next season, if they don't think long-term he's the guy, you've basically got to give him a year to be healthy and play before teams are going to entertain taking his contract on. I think that's just another sort of interesting spin on it. But yeah, going back to your question, I think you have to start whoever we draft.
If JI does come back and is playing, coming on from what Corey was saying last week on the pod, that we're moving away from the orange on the City uniform, and there's going to be something different. I'm hoping that we're going with bubble wrap. The injuries that we've had over the last 2 seasons we definitely deserve something that's going to protect the team. But finally, just want to ask something around. All of a sudden, we've got massive media attention. In every form of media, we have the attention of the NBA and the sports world. So what can this potentially pivotal moment do for both the team's profile and the team's future? So, Mikey, you've not gone first for a bit, so go, man. What's your thoughts?
I think more than anything, it'd just be nice to see some nationally televised games. I mean, it makes no difference for us over here because we watch everything on League Pass. But I think certainly in the States, nobody watches their Magic. We know that from the way everyone was ranking Franz Wagner in the Rookie of the Year debate, which we'll get into in a minute. But that's just one example. But yeah, I just think as for the team as a whole, it'll give the young players a bit of exposure nationally for players to get, for people to say, well, do you know what? They are actually building something in Orlando, something we've been talking about for the last year and a half. I don't think it makes a huge difference at the moment. Again, that number 1 pick and whoever we draft is certainly going to pull in people. And then you've got players like Cole Anthony that obviously can add to that as well. And the national media and fans are going to lap that sort of stuff up because you want characters in the game and you want characters on your team. And we've certainly got a few of them. I also think the Holmgren, Jalen Suggs friendship, like I think they were did they go to high school together or they grew up together and things like that. That's going to add to that sort of intrigue to this Magic team. But yeah, it's just nice that people are finally talking about something positive that we've done, even though it's all been down to luck and winning something with ping pong balls. But it's all good.
Conall, same question, mate.
I mean, I think that now that the world are awake, they're in for a bit of a shock because, as you said earlier, we aren't just some team full of, terrible players who are first a number 1 overall pick's going to come in and he's just going to be surrounded by garbage. That's not what we are. We're a young, exciting team. Look at the personalities that we've got around the team. Like you talked about Cole, even Jalen, Wendell, people like that. These are interesting guys who, given a platform, the media would love, but we don't have that platform. And as they've woken up this week, they need to do a little bit more research on kind of who we are and who plays and things like that. But it's a good thing for us because it's an excitement that we've experienced for the past season with a young group of players who are motivated to keep working for each other, and we don't like the tanking. I don't think they like the tanking. There were times when they didn't want to seem to kind of let the game go, and they were working hard. We put the reserves on, and they'd come and they'd give it a real game for like the last quarter or so. So the culture around the Orlando Magic is attractive, and if the media can kind of cling on to that, it works in their benefit as well, because if we are literally feeding them the content to put out there. If you want to cover a team with the first overall pick, what better personalities to have than the young core that the Orlando Magic already has? So, yeah. I mean, it's nice to kind of finally see, rather than LeBron James has had pizza for his tea tonight, they're talking about the Orlando Magic, which it's refreshing because it's things that we've known for so long, but for other people to finally recognize it, it's deserved. It's definitely deserved.
Gary, are you enjoying watching the talking heads trying to spout Magic knowledge?
It's interesting. I won't name the podcast, but it's quite a big name in America. But I caught
Name them.
Name them if you want. I don't like. I didn't. Right. Okay. So the podcast from The Athletic, which is not a publication I'm a fan of at all, but they were on saying like what a complete waste of the top pick it was to go to Orlando, things like that. That type of coverage that has to go, because it's people just who haven't watched Magic games at all, and this is not a team that's been so woefully bad, and it's what's already been said, devoid of talent. It's an exciting team, it's good basketball, and there's individual players in there who you can go, actually, they've got a future. Like how could you not watch Markel Fultz in full flow and go, no, nothing worth watching there, or what Franz Wagner did as a rookie, etc. Cole's big games, etc. Wendell Carter Jr., like I think he's got a coming out party written all over him next season. So there's so much positive for Orlando. So to just get those eyes there would be absolutely great. But for me, I think it's big for the UK. I think it's big for the UK, this, because when we've had named players, or we've had Shaq, when we've had Penny, when we've had Dwight Howard, etc., people go out to holiday in Orlando and they see the jerseys. There's more jerseys available. There's people talking about Shaq, Dwight Howard, etc., and they come back Magic fans. Whereas now, I've worked in schools, I've worked, etc., like with kids and stuff. Friends of mine, I've got kids who are NBA fans now. They see the NBA Orlando Magic stuff, and then it's like, who do you support? Oh, Golden State, which I totally get. Because they can see a bunch of those games for free at 8:30 on Sky, or they can listen to Mo Moonsey or whatever is the hoop expert, and he's going to talk about Boston. So they're going to take either a big market or a name player. And no disrespect to Vooch, but we have not had a real flagship player for the city since Dwight Howard left, and everybody willed it to be Aaron Gordon. That was what people willed it. We tried to will that to happen, and it wasn't to be. Vooch did his very best, but we need a marquee player, and they're either on the roster now, or it's whoever we draft or get as a result of this. We might get this draft. This draft pick could be a great number 2 option with it, all the other great options that brings another player here when they're a free agent who becomes the number 1 guy. But it's crucial that we have that eyes on us and we capitalize on it, because Orlando's a great team to follow, as we know.
Absolutely. This is where I think it could be a pivotal moment for us in getting this number 1 pick. As you've just said there, it's what it can then subsequently bring to the team. And if you've got a talented core with a strong backcourt that can play the ball well, as we have, it's then what can you attract further to bring into this team in free agency? And I think we're in an amazing position because of landing this. I thought we were in a great position anyway, but landing that number 1 pick has kind of just pushed us over that hill, the peak, and we've got every opportunity to really take a major step forward. I agree with you. I think that Wendell has got a opportunity to have an amazing season next year, and I'm so excited to see what Franz can develop and bring further to what he's already done. Because let's be fair, the accolade that he's just gotten, it brings us on to the next point, where he's been announced overnight as being named in Kia's NBA All-Rookie First Team. It shows that even though he didn't get the votes in the Rookie of the Year consideration, his ability has been recognised, and I'm delighted for the guy. Have you seen he got 84 out of a possible 100 votes? That is superb.
What happened to the other 16?
He had 15 second place, didn't he? And then there was one where it was unaccounted for, which might have been
amazing. Yeah. Conall, pleased for the guy?
I'm pleased for him, and I think it's to be, obviously from our point of view, expected, because we watched the Magic games and we understand what a talent he was, and it frustrated us throughout the season that he wasn't getting the recognition of Mobley, Green, Cunningham when he played, even though he wasn't any less of a player, especially in the Magic team that he was in. We selected him after Jalen Suggs in the draft, and he made a bigger impact than Jalen Suggs last season. He impressed everyone in the Magic. Like you say, he's locked down as a starting player for us for the next, for years to come. And to solidify yourself that quickly when, so many players went before him in the draft is very, very impressive. And I'm glad that it's been recognised. Obviously, I mean, these all NBA teams, all rookie teams, they don't mean anything, but it's nice for him to kind of finally have his name out there. Like, there was maybe 1 week, I think, throughout the entire season where he led in the Rookie of the Year standings. I remember we all celebrated that because we've been speaking about it for so long that Cunningham was injured, Green wasn't performing, and Franz Wagner was the man who was making the impact. But it seems like you say, with it goes nicely hand in hand with getting the first overall pick, because we have a guy who's in the all-rookie first team. We have guys coming in as a first overall pick. We have lottery picks all throughout the team. People are going to look at the Magic, and if you are looking for a team to support, like if you've been on holiday to Florida, but even if you're just watching the NBA now, you're starting to get into it, and you're saying, right, I don't want to cheat and go and support the Bucks or something like that. Who's got a really exciting young core that if I follow this team, I'm going to be on a journey with them for the next few years? That looks like us, and a big part of that is Franz Wagner, and the front office hit big time when we picked him. So I'm made up for the bloke, and I'm sure he's watching. Franz, well done.
So, based off of the announcement of Franz becoming the 10th player in franchise history to be named in the NBA All-Rookie First Team, the trivia question is, can you name the other 9?
Shaq.
That's 1.
Penny.
That's 2.
Alfred
Dwight.
Payton.
That's 3.
Dwight.
Dwight's 4.
Victor Oladipo.
That's 5.
Mike Miller.
That's 6.
Here we go.
Getting years is cheating a little bit, isn't it?
I don't mind. I could give you years.
Was Dennis Scott?
Dennis Scott was.
Shout.
Yes. He was the first one. So it went Scott, Shaq, Penny. You're missing the next one, who was 1998, 1999.
Harpering.
Bang on, buddy. Bang on. Then it was Mike Miller. And the one that you're missing is the next guy from in 2002, 2003 season.
Did Jameer Nelson make the first one? No.
No.
Oh, that's wrong.
I'd have gone there.
Yeah.
This one's earlier than that.
Yeah.
Conall's doing my pose from Tuesday night.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, man.
03.
2002, 2003.
Who did we draft?
Went to his college was Kansas. He was drafted, as said, at the number. He was drafted at number 1 by the Memphis Grizzlies.
Drew Gooden.
He came to us.
Drew Gooden.
Drew Gooden.
Bang on. Bang on, buddy. So there you go. That is the trivia question for this week. So well done, knocking out those 9. Impressed, boys, impressed. So, as always, just got to say thanks for your company, guys. G, we missed you, like I've told you. But to everybody, thanks for sending in the questions. We do genuinely appreciate it. We love the interactions. But don't forget to sign up for the Draft Watch Party if you haven't already done so. We'll have the link added in the podcast description, so it makes it easy for you. Thanks as always to everybody for listening and watching. Please subscribe to the podcast, and for the latest news, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, all at Orlando Magic UK, and visit the website orlandomagicuk.com. So, from Conall, Gary, Mikey, and myself, until next time, go Magic.